AITA for refusing to take my ex back after she left for a real man and now regrets it? Hi everyone. I grew up in East Detroit, just my mom and me, after my old man decided cigarettes mattered more than his family and never came back from his so-called little trip to the grocery store. My mom was a hell of a warrior, a nurse by day, a waitress by night, and she still found time to attend most of my school stuff. We did not have much, but she made sure I never felt poor. You see, I started working in my Uncle Mike's garage at 15, not because he really wanted to hire me. In fact, he tried to talk me out of it, said I should concentrate on school, but I was tired of wearing worn-out clothes and seeing my mom exhausted all the time. Plus, I always had this thing for cars. I spent hours watching YouTube videos on engines and modifications and scribbling designs in my notebooks during class. Uncle Mike's garage was not anything special, just a normal shop doing good work for normal people. But to me, it was Harvard. Every day after school, I went straight there. I swept the floor, organized tools, did whatever was needed. The old mechanics started teaching me stuff when they saw I was genuinely interested. By 16, I could do an oil change with my eyes closed. By 17, I was helping on engine rebuilds. And that is where it gets interesting. One day, a guy shows up with a Mustang that was completely shot. The other garages had given up, said it was not worth it. But me, I saw the potential. I spent weeks staying late after my normal hours, scouring forums, testing different solutions, and I ended up making it run better than new. After that, word of mouth took off. If you had a performance car that needed major work, Uncle Mike's was the place to go. And I was the kid people asked for. I finished high school with decent grades thanks to my mom pushing me relentlessly on homework. But college was not really for me. I went to a technical school instead. I got all my certifications, and that is where I met Chloe. Man, when I look back, I should have seen the red flags from the start. She had brought her BMW into the shop where I was doing my apprenticeship. Nothing special, just a March 2028 model. Apparently, her father had gifted it to her for her 20th birthday. Yeah, I know. But she seemed different from the other rich girls we saw passing through. She was genuinely interested when I explained what was wrong with her car. She did not act disgusted by my grease-covered hands. She even laughed at my stupid jokes about cars. We started dating a few weeks later. In hindsight, I think she saw me as her little rebellion against her stuck-up family. You know, like those rich girls who date the bad boy just to piss off their parents. Except I was not even a bad boy, just a working-class guy, good with cars, who had big dreams. The first 2 years were pretty sweet. She brought me food to the garage, hung out while I worked on my projects. I started doing side jobs, saving every penny with this vision of opening my own shop. Not just a repair garage, but a high-end workshop, the kind of place where people bring their Ferrari and Lamborghini for serious work. Chloe seemed to support me, always talked about how much she believed in me. But her family, man, imagine every cliché about wealthy snobs. Multiply by 10 and you are close to the truth. Her father, the big real estate developer, asked me condescending questions about my little car hobby at family meals. Her mother constantly brought up the fact that her friend's son was succeeding brilliantly in medicine or that her cousin's husband had just become a partner in a law firm. But I kept my cool, focused on my goals. By 24, I had a solid reputation in the Detroit car scene. I was starting to get high-end clients thanks to word of mouth, and I had even been the subject of an article in a local magazine for a custom restoration of a 1967 Shelby GT 500. Things were looking good. Chloe and I, it had been 4 years. We had talked about marriage, kids, all that. I was saving for a ring. Nothing crazy, but honest money that I had earned with my own hands. I had a whole plan to propose to her once I got the loan for my workshop. Then everything went to hell. Every year, Chloe's family organized a fancy charity gala for a foundation to save this or that. Usually, I found an excuse not to go. Nothing is more uncomfortable than being surrounded by rich kids convinced that changing their own oil is an adventure. But this time, Chloe insisted, said it was important for her family that I be there. First red flag that I completely missed. I worked like a dog that week to finish a client's Porsche GT3 early so I could go. I even bought a new suit. Nothing luxurious, but better than my usual stuff from JCPenney. I spent 3 hours watching YouTube videos to learn how to tie a proper Windsor knot. In hindsight, I probably tried too hard, but hey, I wanted to make Chloe proud. The gala was held in a massive mansion outside the city, the kind with a fountain in the driveway. Valet service. Awkward moment when I recognized one of the valets, a guy who used to work at Uncle Mike's, and enough crystal chandeliers to blind a small army. I felt out of place as soon as I walked through the door, but I was trying to stay cool. And that is when James Morrison III made his entrance. This guy shows up with a brand new Porsche GT3 RS. Exactly the model I had been working on all week. Except his came straight from the dealership, probably never saw a speck of dust. He arrives wearing what I learned later was a $12,000 suit. Yeah, I checked. A luxury watch that must have cost more than my annual income. And that typical rich kid haircut that screams, "My dad's lawyers have lawyers too." And the real kicker is this. His family owned Morrison Luxury Automobile, a chain of high-end dealerships across 3 states. The same dealerships that sometimes sent us cars they could not fix. The irony was killing me. Chloe's mother literally ran to him to greet him. "James, darling, we did not know you would be here." A total lie. I found out later they had specially invited him, and before I realized it, they were steering Chloe towards him, making sure they sat next to each other at dinner. During the meal, I had to put up with this guy bragging about his latest professional adventures, obviously funded by Daddy. "We just acquired a new dealership in Chicago," he says while swirling his $1,000 wine. Like in a commercial. "We plan to expand into the exotic car market." It is really a matter of understanding the mindset of the luxury consumer. I almost choked on my tiny, weird French appetizer. This guy would not recognize real work on a car even if it bit him on his designer-clad backside. But every time he opened his mouth, Chloe's parents were ecstatic. Her father kept saying things like, "That is the kind of vision the industry needs, and you really understand the business side of things." And all the while, I noticed Chloe becoming quieter and quieter. Usually, she jumped at the chance to talk about my projects, the custom work I had done, my plans to open my own garage. But that night, nothing. She just nodded and laughed at James's bad jokes about people who still buy American cars. That hurt more than all the little jabs about my background. After dinner, there was dancing. I am not really a dancer, unless you count the little victory step I do after successfully rebuilding a transmission. But I was trying. Then James cut in smoothly with his ballroom dancing skills, surely learned in some fancy prep school. Chloe did not even look back at me. The rest of the evening was torture. I was forced to watch them dance, talk, and laugh. Her mother hovered around them, taking photos, making comments about what a beautiful couple they made. Meanwhile, I was at the bar, drowning my frustration in an overpriced drink I could not even enjoy. On the ride home, Chloe was different, quiet. When I tried to joke about James, the walking stereotype, she did not laugh like usual. Instead, she defended him. "He is really smart in this sector," she said. "You could maybe learn something about the business side from him." That is when I knew. Deep down, I think I already knew we were done. But like an idiot, I ignored the signal. I told myself she was just impressed by the fancy evening, that everything would go back to normal once we were back in our usual routine. Over the weeks, Chloe started getting more involved in her family's social circle. Suddenly, she was too busy to stop by the garage. Always a charity event or a socialite party. And somehow, James was always there too. "Just a coincidence," she said. "Yeah, right." The last straw came when I found out she was having business lunches with James to discuss investment opportunities for my future garage. Apparently, he was interested in supporting local talent. Yes, supporting me by pushing me out of my own relationship. It was a Tuesday when my life fell apart. I remember because I had just finished a complex transmission rebuild on a client's Mercedes AMG GT. I was feeling pretty good. Grease all over my hands, but a big check in my pocket. The kind of day that usually calls for a celebratory beer with the guys at the garage. Then Chloe sends me a text. "Can we talk? I will stop by your place after work." Anyone who has ever received that message knows exactly what it means. But stupid me, I really believed she might want to apologize for being distant lately. I ran home. I took the fastest shower of my life. I even tidied up my little apartment above the garage. It was not much, but it was mine, paid for by honest work and long hours. She arrived looking like she had walked out of a magazine. All in designer clothes, perfect hair, not a detail out of place. Meanwhile, I still had motor oil under my nails despite all the scrubbing. The contrast hit me differently that day. "I think we should take a break," she started, the classic opener. But here came the real sledgehammer. I have been thinking a lot about my future. I sat on my old couch while she unrolled her obviously rehearsed speech, that she needed stability, that she was at a stage in her life where she had to think seriously about her future, that her family made her realize certain things. Then the showstopper. She had the nerve to say this. James helped me understand what I really want in life. Someone already established. Someone who can give me the lifestyle I am used to. You know what is crazy? I did not even get mad. I did not scream. I did not throw anything. I just sat there as if my heart had been ripped out through my throat. For years of memories flashing by, all the nights spent with her at the garage, all our projects, all the times she told me she believed in my dreams. And the garage? I asked. And everything we planned? She literally rolled her eyes. Honestly, be realistic. Do you know how much capital it takes to compete with established luxury garages? James says. I cut her off cold. James says. The guy who has never changed his own oil? That is who you take business advice from now. She gave me this look like I was a kid who does not understand how the real world works. That is exactly what I am talking about. You are so focused on the technical side that you do not understand the business reality. James has connections. He understands the luxury market. I stood up. Something snapped inside me. Get out. Get out of my apartment. Take your designer bags, your business reality, and your James and get out. She looked shocked. She surely thought I was going to beg, promise to change, crawl for a second chance. Instead, I walked to the door and held it open. She left without another word. 2 days later, she was all over Instagram. Photos of her and James at a rooftop restaurant, his arm around her waist. It looked like they were shooting a commercial for rich people problems. Caption: sometimes life takes you exactly where you are meant to be. The worst part was the comments. All her wealthy friends saying stuff like, OMG, finally, you guys are perfect together, and it is what you deserve, girl, as if our whole relationship had just been an embarrassing phase for her. Then the real backslide happened. Remember the Mercedes I had just finished? The owner called the next day saying the transmission was acting up again. I was so destroyed by the breakup that I must have missed something during the reassembly. I had to pay for the repair myself. Goodbye big check I was so proud of. The mistakes kept coming. I started having too many drinks, showing up late to work, and losing my focus on jobs. Uncle Mike tried to talk to me, but I was not listening. Clients started going elsewhere. My savings for the garage were melting fast between lost jobs and alcohol to drown my memories of Chloe. I lost 3 other big contracts in 2 weeks. In the world of luxury cars, word of mouth travels fast. 1 mistake and your reputation takes a hit. 2 mistakes and people start looking elsewhere. Uncle Mike tried to help me. He is a good guy. He gave me chances even when I came in late, hungover, or both. But after I scratched a client's restored '69 Camaro because my head just was not in the game, he had to make a decision. He took me aside one Friday afternoon, pain on his face. Listen, kid, I love you like a son, but I cannot let you work on cars in this state. You are going to hurt yourself or hurt someone else. Take some time. Get yourself together. That night, I had one too many. I woke up on my bathroom floor with 3 missed calls from my landlord. Apparently, I had missed 2 months of rent for my apartment above the garage. I was so adrift, I had not even seen the overdue notices piling up. The final blow, my savings account was almost empty. 4 years of saving every penny for my dream garage. Gone in less than 2 months of self-destruction. Between the botched jobs I had to fix at my own expense, the drinking, and my attempts to keep up appearances on the rare dates I went on, I had burned through it all. I had to move back in with my mom at 26. She did not say anything when I showed up at her door with 2 duffel bags and a toolbox. She just hugged me and told me dinner would be ready in an hour. But I saw her crying in the kitchen later that night. It destroyed me to know I was making my mother cry after everything she had sacrificed to raise me right. I started accepting any job. I worked at AutoZone during the day. At night, I delivered pizzas. But the worst was when I had to take a job as a valet at a fancy steakhouse downtown. Exactly the kind of place I had dreamed of taking Chloe once I had made it. And then it happened, the moment that truly broke me. I was standing there in my valet uniform, cheap polyester pants, a red vest that made me look like a rejected Christmas elf. And here comes a familiar Porsche GT3 RS. That distinct shark blue that still haunted my nightmares. James gets out, looking like a GQ model. And then Chloe, wearing a red dress that must have been worth more than my car, all in designer gear, and the tennis bracelet that James had posted on Instagram as her gift. Yes, I was still pathetic enough to check their social media. She saw me. I know she saw me, but she looked at me like I was invisible. She just handed me her purse with that automatic smile you reserve for the staff. James, on the other hand, recognized me. He had this little smirk as he took out his wallet. "Take care of it," he told me, handing me a $100 bill. "I know it has not been easy for you lately." I wanted to shove that bill down his throat. Wanted to remind him that I knew more about cars than he ever would. Wanted to tell him that daddy's money does not make you a man. But you know what I did? I took that bill because I needed it. My mom's AC was broken and she refused to let me pay to fix it, but I knew those $100 would cover the necessary parts. That night, after my shift, I sat in my car, the same Mustang I had been so proud to build myself, now worn and neglected. I took out my phone and looked at Chloe's Instagram. They were there, at the same restaurant where I had worked as a valet. The perfect couple, the perfect life, perfect everything. I was 65 pounds overweight, wearing a cheap uniform that smelled like other people's cars, with that $100 bill burning a hole in my pocket. That was my true rock bottom. But the thing about rock bottom is that once you are there, you have nothing left to lose. That night, I went home. I walked through the living room without a word while my mom watched her late-night shows and went straight to my old room, still decorated with my high school trophies. I stood in front of the mirror for what seemed like hours. The guy staring back, I did not recognize him anymore. Unshaven for weeks, deep dark circles, a stranger wearing my face. That is when I made the decision with a capital D. Because sometimes, you have to completely break to be able to rebuild yourself. And rebuilding is exactly what I was going to do. That $100 bill James had given me changed everything, but not in the way he thought. The morning after the valet incident, I got up at 4 in the morning. Something had changed inside me. I took my mom's old digital scale and faced the truth. 242 pounds. I had gained 46 pounds of pure depression weight in a few months. I took out my phone, deleted all the delivery apps, stopped following Chloe and James on everything, and downloaded a calorie counting app. Then I did something I had not done since high school football. I put on my old running shoes and went for a run. I lasted 6 minutes before my lungs felt like they were going to explode. But the thing about rock bottom is you have nothing but time. No girlfriend to satisfy, no social life to maintain, no reputation to protect, just hours and hours to rebuild yourself. So I made a plan, a real one, not a fake New Year's resolution. 4:30 a.m. wake up, protein shake, learning about nutrition on YouTube. 5 a.m. gym. 7 a.m. shift at AutoZone. 4 p.m. valet service. 11 p.m. studying business and marketing until I dropped from exhaustion. And repeat, every single day. The first month was hell, constant suffering. Living at my mom's at 26 made me feel like a total loser. The valet job constantly reminded me of everything I had lost. But I kept staring at that $100 bill pinned to my wall, thinking back to James's smirk, and I turned that anger, that humiliation, into fuel. After 3 months, things started to change. 24 pounds down, muscles started reappearing. AutoZone regulars asked me what I was doing differently, but the biggest change was in my head. Working at AutoZone had an unexpected benefit. I talked with all types of Detroit car enthusiasts, from suburban dads with their weekend projects to serious collectors maintaining their classics. I started seeing patterns, what they complained about, the services they could not find, what they dreamed of having. The big clients especially. They were sick of dealerships like James's families overcharging for small things and messing up the complex stuff. The more I listened, the more I saw a gap in the market. These guys wanted someone who understood both mechanics and the luxury market. I found the warehouse I had dreamed of during a valet shift. A huge, abandoned building in Corktown, right between the rich suburbs and downtown. The old owner had gone bankrupt during the pandemic. The place was a ruin. Broken windows, graffiti everywhere, probably squatters in the corners. But man, the structure was perfect. High ceiling, great location, huge doors capable of accommodating any vehicle. During my breaks, I would sit in my car in front of the building. I ran numbers, drew plans, just thought. The asking price was $400,000, totally out of reach for me, but I could not get it out of my mind. And then came the breakthrough. One night, I had to park a beat-up Rolls-Royce Phantom. Yes, they exist. The owner was an old Detroit businessman, Mr. Thompson. His car was making a strange noise. He had already complained to 3 different dealerships and had spent thousands, but the problem persisted. I heard it and knew immediately what it was, a classic pneumatic suspension problem on those models. I gave him my diagnosis. He was skeptical but desperate. He told me I could take a look after my shift if I wanted. I spent 2 hours in the parking lot with a few tools from my trunk. When I finished, he was stunned. He started asking questions about my background, my projects. I told him everything. The warehouse I wanted to buy, my vision of a different kind of luxury garage, how the current market was failing clients like him. We talked for an hour. The next day, he called me. He wanted me to meet him in his office. I showed up in my best clothes, which did not mean much at the time, my hands still stained with motor oil despite scrubbing them until they bled. He had a proposal. He would help me get the loan for the warehouse, plus $200,000 for renovations and equipment. In exchange, he wanted 25% of the company, an absolute priority for the maintenance of his car collection. But here was the catch. I had 3 months to prove I could run a business with a complete business plan, a marketing strategy, everything. And I had to regain the trust of the luxury car community. No pressure. You know what I did? I took every free online business course I could find. During my valet shifts, I studied high-end clients, the way they spoke, what they valued, what inspired confidence in them. I used my AutoZone contacts to rebuild my reputation in the car scene. I called in every favor from mechanics I had helped before. I lost another 20 pounds. I started dressing better, not fancy but professional. Clean, ironed clothes, even for the valet job. I changed the way I spoke, my posture, not by playing a role, but by becoming the best version of myself. 3 months later, I walked into Mr. Thompson's office a different man. Physically, mentally, professionally, everything had changed. I put down a 100-page business plan I had rewritten 12 times. I had 5 luxury car owners ready to sign maintenance contracts and a complete renovation plan for the warehouse. He read it all, stared at me for a long moment, then opened his drawer and took out a set of keys. The keys to the warehouse. He had already bought it. He said he knew from the second week that I was going to make it. He just wanted to see how far I was capable of going. That night, standing in what was to become my workshop, covered in dust and cobwebs, I finally took the $100 bill off my wall. Not because I had moved on, but because I needed space for the building permit that was going to change everything. Renovating that warehouse was like giving life back to a dead car. You have to strip everything down to the bare metal before rebuilding correctly. My first day as owner, I found 300 live bats in the back office and enough pigeons to start a racing team. The roof leaked in 17 places. The concrete floor was more cracked than my ex's moral conscience. But man, there is something therapeutic about destroying to rebuild better. I spent 2 weeks demolishing partitions and cleaning out decades of industrial crap. Mr. Thompson thought I was crazy to do the demolition myself, but I needed it. I needed to feel every part of this place transform under my hands. Remember the business plan I talked about? It called for 3 months of renovation before opening. We did it in 7 weeks. I am talking 18-hour days, sleeping on a cot in what was to become the client lounge, eating nothing but protein bars and gas station coffee. My mom brought me clean clothes and real food, saying I was working too much. But she did not understand. It was not work, it was redemption. The floor cost nearly $50,000 to redo properly, with a special epoxy coating capable of withstanding oil leaks and Bugatti tire tracks. The lifts cost $100,000 more for top-of-the-line models, not those cheap hydraulic things that break down every 2 months. Every dollar spent was an investment to prove them wrong. Opening day was nothing special, no big ceremony, no ribbon cutting. Just the doors opening at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. I had exactly 5 appointments scheduled, all thanks to Mr. Thompson's contacts. At 8 a.m. came the first real test, a Rolls-Royce Cullinan. The owner complained of a weird noise in the suspension. Other garages had quoted him $15,000 for a complete system replacement. It took me 2 hours to diagnose and fix a loose actuator that cost $300 in parts. The look on his face when I gave him the bill was priceless. He called 3 friends before he even left the parking lot. That is when things took off. Word of mouth spread like wildfire in the luxury car community. This new shop in Corktown, the guy running it really knows what he is doing. No BS, fair prices for quality work. 3 weeks later, we were booked solid for 2 weeks in advance. I hired my first 2 mechanics at the end of the first month, 2 guys I knew from back when I hung out at Uncle Mike's garage who wanted to work in high-end. I trained them myself, instilled my standards in them. No shortcuts, no nonsense, no overcharging just because the client has money. Then came the turning point. Remember the Ferrari restoration I talked about? The owner was a big shot in the collector car scene. He brought me his 1962 Ferrari 250 GTE. The previous garage had completely botched the engine rebuild and was asking for another $40,000 to fix their mistakes. I spent a whole week rebuilding that engine, staying up until 3 a.m. studying original Ferrari manuals. When I started it for the first time, that V12 sang like it had just come out of Maranello. I cried. The owner was so thrilled he wrote about us in his car club newsletter. Overnight, we started getting calls from collectors all over the country. 6 months later, I had to hire 3 more mechanics. We built a reputation as the shop that knew how to fix the impossible, the breakdowns that even dealerships, including some well-known chains, did not understand. We started getting calls from exotic owners who were tired of dealership nonsense, and that is where it gets interesting. I started noticing a pattern. A lot of complaints concern Morrison Luxury Automobile, James's father's chain. Their customer service was degrading. They were charging insane prices for basic interventions and screwing up complex repairs. Why? Because James had convinced his old man to cut the technician training budget, thinking the rich would pay no matter what. A year later, we had a 3-month wait list. We had to start refusing normal cars to focus on exotics and classics. We bought the building next door, doubled our workspace, and installed a specialized Ferrari diagnostic system that cost more than my first house should have. And then one day, a familiar Porsche GT3 RS parked out front. Not for service, just parked while its owner went to the new coffee shop across the street. The shark blue paint was starting to fade, the brake discs were worn. By the sound, I knew it needed a carbon cleaning, but the owner had not caught on to who I was yet. I stayed low profile. No social media, no ads, only word of mouth. Local magazines had written about the shop, but I always refused photos. It was not about me. It was about the work. But seeing that Porsche there, knowing what was coming, man, karma was about to present the bill. Remember that tired GT3 RS I mentioned? 2 weeks after I saw it in front of my shop, it came back. This time it was a client, but not with James behind the wheel. He had sent a courier from his dealership. Apparently, the car was running poorly and their technicians could not figure out why. The courier gave me the keys without knowing who I was. I did a full inspection while he waited. The car was a disaster. Carbon buildup, worn brake pads, transmission fluid that had probably never been changed since leaving the factory. Classic signs of an owner who cares more about the badge than the machine. I wrote up a full estimate and handed it to the courier. The total came to about $18,000 of necessary work. The courier called James directly from my office. I could hear him through the phone. That is ridiculous. Our after-sales said a tune-up was enough. My day lit up when the courier replied, "Sir, you told me to take it to the best garage in Detroit. This is that garage." James arrived an hour later, no doubt thinking he could play his influence card. He walked into my office without recognizing me right away. I had gained 33 pounds of muscle, grown a well-groomed beard, and was wearing a tailored suit instead of a mechanic's jumpsuit. The moment of recognition was pure gold. His face went through 5 emotions in 3 seconds. Shock, disbelief, anger, fear, and finally, respect. Because he knew. One glance around my garage was enough. 6 high-end cars on the lifts, 3 Ferrari certifications on the wall, and a waiting list so long we were not taking new clients anymore. How? He started to ask. Hard work. I cut him off. Something daddy's money cannot buy. He tried to save face, started talking about a possible collaboration. His dealership chain was struggling. Cutting technician training was obviously not a great long-term strategy. But I was not interested in helping the guy who had taken everything from me. Your car will be ready in 2 weeks, I told him. Usual terms, 50% down. The best part? He paid. He had no choice. His reputation was on the line, and his own dealership was incapable of fixing the car correctly. But that was just the appetizer. The main course came a month later when I received an interesting email. Morrison Luxury Automobile was looking to sell some of its dealerships. Their after-sales service had tarnished their reputation so much they were losing millions. High-end clients were fleeing in droves, many to us. Remember Mr. Thompson, my mentor and investor? He sat on the board of directors of several banks, the ones that held the Morrison family's commercial loans. One phone call from him, and suddenly those loans were being re-examined. Very closely. The cherry on top was Chloe appearing one afternoon in my garage without warning. She had changed. The luxury clothes were replaced by basic ready-to-wear. The varnish of the perfect rich girl had worn off. James's family's financial troubles had hit their home. No more unlimited credit cards, no more shopping sprees. "I made a mistake," she said, standing in my office, the same office where I had once dreamed of building something big. "I never should have left. You were the real deal, and I was too blind to see it." At that moment, Maya walked in. My girlfriend of 2 years, a former professional driver, now running her own performance parts company. She is everything Chloe pretended to be: smart, ambitious, authentic. The look on Chloe's face when Maya kissed me hello was better than any revenge I could have planned. "The mistake was not leaving," I told Chloe. "The mistake was thinking I needed you to succeed." Today, my garage is the go-to address for exotic cars in the Midwest. We have a 6-month waiting list, 3 locations open, and a reputation for excellence that money cannot buy. James's family had to sell most of their dealerships. Karma is a difficult thing when you build your success on nothing but air. Last I heard, James was selling used cars in Ohio. Chloe is still with him, but not really by choice. When you build your whole life around someone else's money, it is hard to walk away when that money disappears. Her Instagram is full of posts like, "Blessed with what really matters." You know, the kind of stuff you write to convince yourself you are happy. Me, I just signed the deal to open 2 new locations. Maya and I are getting married next spring. The ceremony will take place in the first warehouse I renovated. Mr. Thompson will be my best man. That $100 bill James gave me when I was a valet is framed in my office, right next to the Entrepreneur of the Year award I won last year. Sometimes, I think back to that night when I saw them walk into that restaurant like they owned the world. Everything I have built since is not about revenge. It is about proving that true success comes from passion, hard work, and never letting someone else define your worth. The empire I built was not thanks to family connections or a trust fund. It is built on skinned knuckles, sleepless nights, and a genuine love for what I do. And that, no one can ever take away from me. Comment: I know this story taps into deep emotions for many of us. It is incredibly painful when someone else tries to define your worth. But the real turning point is never about them. It is about you. It is the moment you decide your self-respect is not negotiable. Healing asks you to be kind to yourself, even when you feel broken. True success is not about proving others wrong. It is about proving yourself right. You learn to stop chasing closure from people who are not sorry. Instead, you choose to build your own peace, brick by brick. Remember to set your boundaries with strength and walk your own path with integrity. Your journey is yours alone, and it is worth protecting. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.